Today on Locked On Rockies, the 2025 season is officially underway as pitchers and catchers report for the Colorado Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome back into the Locked On Rockies podcast for the 13th day of February in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? We are in the right spot because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. And we're on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind by heading to the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section, putting your questions, your comments, your hot takes there, and letting me know what's on your mind when it comes to Rockies baseball. Remember, the best way to help support the show is by subscribing to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, liking the videos, and leaving those 5-star reviews. Every time you do, you really help the show grow, and you're helping us grow our wonderful Locked On Rockies audience, who's getting even more eager and excited and ready to go for Colorado Rockies baseball. Returning, of course, in just a couple of weeks, actually on the field, but back in action officially today. Pitchers and catchers back in action, and we are going. We are underway. This builds up what we've been talking about, right? This is arguably this spring is one of the biggest springs for young pitcher development and young pitcher possibilities for the Colorado Rockies. There's multiple prospects that are looking to make the team. Thomas Harding, it looks like, just has a new piece today on another possible breakout factor here. This is actually from yesterday, from Zach Agnos, saying that he is going to be a breakout candidate. Bud Black speaking with the media yesterday, highlighting that he really believes in this bullpen, but knows it's going to be a tough spring as well for a lot of these guys, as people are going to be searching, hunting that opportunity, and maybe they're not going to quite get that. So this is a situation, right? If we're looking for a reason why the Rockies have stuck with Bud Black for so long, this part of the season is where you have to imagine has to be one of the biggest moments for him. This is a situation in which not only do you have to continue to develop and evaluate the talent that you have on your roster here, but it's how do you help your guys get over the hump and really make it difficult for yourself, as in Bud Black, to make the decision on who makes the roster. If you're Bud Black, you're sitting there and you're hoping that your job, your decision is very, very difficult by the end of spring, right? Because that means the young guys that are trying to force their way into the rotation, into the bullpen, are really making it difficult for you to justify them not doing that. And on the off chance that they really blow some people away and we get some surprise folks and we get to add in some people that maybe we didn't expect, I'm not opposed to that either. But right here is why you believe in Bud Black, because of the development and because of the pitcher focused mindset that he has. Multiple young arms ready to go, a young bullpen that needs to gear up and not. So Bud Black talks about the improvements the bullpen saw in the second half, talks about how where they finished as a team when it came to velocity out of the bullpen and XYZ. That's fine. But now, how do you get those guys that from the young guys from the bullpen that had the experience that they had last year? How do you help them get to the next level? How do you help them avoid the pitfalls that, say, Justin Lawrence has seemed to fall into, where it's that up and down, up and down? Maybe obviously every pitcher differently and different pitch selection, and of course Justin Lawrence with the unique delivery as well. But this has to be why the Rockies believe in Bud Black. It has to be in situations like right now in the spring that his ability to get these guys to where they need to go. The Rockies are loaded with young pitching talent. The Rockies are looking at a situation here in which the young arms are going to be the difference maker here. And when you're looking at the prospect rankings here for the Rockies, you're looking at Dollander, of course, and I haven't heard much of this Brody Brecht, but he's going to be in rookie ball, so we're not too worried about him. But you have that. You have Sean Sullivan that we talked a little bit, Carson Palmquist. You have a good mix of guys. Jaden Hill, of course, someone that got some time last year as well with the Rockies. Gabriel, what happens with Bradley Blaylock? Look, there's so many guys that are younger, MLB ready, have some MLB experience, close to MLB ready, at all these degrees, different degrees here. But this has to be where Black shines. This has to be where he is someone that's able to get the most out of these guys. I don't know necessarily how much I'll stand by and how much I'll put my foot in the ground here. But, and I'll propose the question to you, the listener, first before we dive into this. If none of the prospects make say the Rockies get to the end of spring and none of the guys that we've talked about possibly breaking camp make the roster, is that a failure, or is that manager making the tough right call? Because it's going to be hard to see in between those, right? Because personally, like deep down, I think it would be a shame if the Rockies can't get any of these exciting prospects to at least to break the roster to give a shot. On the flip side, we know that depth is going to be something that's going to come up. Unfortunately, as the nature of the business, of the nature of the baseball season, with its length, with its grueling toll on the body, health is always something you're going to have to worry about. Someone, unfortunately, we're not rooting for anything, but odds are you're going to have to dip into this depth to replace there anyway. So, is it a failure if these guys don't make the Dollanders and the Palmquists and the Sullivans, if they're not pitching on, if they're not in the rotation opening day or opening week, is that a failure? Or are the Rockies more saying, like, we're going to get you guys, get warmed up, get into the groove of the season. Once you're in a little bit more, once you got a little bit more time to get to where you need to be, then we're going to bring you up. But my big response to that is, why wait? And I say that, and I say why wait, not in the sense of, hey, just throw them out there, see what happens. Hey, just throw them to the wolves. You got to, but if you're sitting there and you're Bud Black and you're kind of going, am I going to, how am I leaning here? What am I thinking here? Obviously, there are going to be disappointed pitchers and guys that are going to have springs that suggest and say that they should be on the roster. That's probably going to happen. But if Bud Black is sitting there and he's looking at it as Dollander, and just say Dollander is just rolling, right? He looks great. He feels great. He's in a groove. He's doing well. I don't think you have anything to lose by giving it a shot, by giving an opportunity to a guy. You're going to have to move things around, but I do think it'll be interesting to see what type of I haven't dove too far into it, but I just saw a piece on MLB.com talking about a leadership role possibly for Austin Gomber as he is a diving in and becoming someone that's, I mean, now this is going to be what, year 5, year 4? Is it year 4 or 5 for Austin Gomber here now with the Colorado Rockies? And I think that's going to be, and he's an interesting guy too, where this piece is Gomber embracing leadership role. You find yourself transforming, and I really like this opening line to this from Harding. 4 seasons of trial and error, production and pain, and learning and unlearning have led to left-hander Austin Gomber going from student to much-needed educator in the Rockies rotation. And that's a good, and I wonder too, like I said, I haven't had the chance to go through this full thing to see if that means like he's necessarily going to be up for shifting back into the bullpen. But here's what he had to say about the prospects in this piece. Gomber hopes the prospects will benefit from what he has learned about pitching for the Rockies in Denver's unique atmosphere. Everything from off-season workouts to judicious work between starts to effort level during tight spots in games. I think there's a path for us to compete this year, absolutely, Gomber said. But if we can't compete this year, I would still like to be able to contribute to winning for the Rockies somehow. Maybe if that isn't on the field, maybe it's chaperoning guys like Dollander, Palmquist, and the other young pitchers, helping them have success. A durable body and a curious mind can go a long way. I had Greg Maddux at the end, and Maddux was as inquisitive as anybody, manager Bud Black says. Gombe's at the point now where he truly understands his stuff and what makes him successful, and that's a good feeling as a pitcher. He's still going to make adjustments, but there's still a sense of experience that we all feel good about with him. Trying to see if there's anything. Here's his last quote that he has to say as Harding looked into some of the stats. I know this isn't necessarily about Gomber, but stuff just ended up being interesting. I think these quotes. I've understood as I've been here that you do not have to be two different pitchers, at least as a starter, because I'm trying to throw 6-7 innings, trying to go through a lineup multiple times, Gomber said. Game plan wise, there are different ways you have to attack, and I've gotten better at understanding my recipe for success at altitude versus on the road. These are the type of quotes, and that's the type of role that I'm very excited that Austin Gomber is actually trying to find himself a part of, because he has his identity with the Rockies now. He is a member of the Rockies. Like, as much as him coming over here is going to be associated with the Nolan Arenado trade, that continues to fade. And now for Gomber to make it so his legacy is not, again, it is what it is. It's how he got here. The performance is whatever. It's probably, you're not sitting there saying Cy Young, Cy Young. But now, as Gomber continues to grow and to develop, if we can get someone that can contribute positively to the Rockies, and Austin Gomber did contribute positively to the Colorado Rockies last year with a 2.1 WAR, he was someone that had one of the better seasons for the Colorado Rockies last year. Again, not a great great season for a lot of folks, but Austin Gomber by WAR was the 5th best player on the Rockies roster last year. So this is a guy that has dealt with all of the challenges of being a part of a member of the Colorado Rockies, losing, coming over in the Nolan Arenado trade already dealing with that, with that lens being applied to his performance, adjusting and dealing with altitude, injuries up and down. For him to talk like this shows that he wants to be the resource that these young guys could be facing. Again, this is a guy, he wasn't drafted by the Rockies. It wasn't just, going through all the system and all the things. He can come up and say, here's what happens when you step on the mound at Coors Field for the first time as a newbie. And these guys, again, have played at altitude in certain levels in the Rockies minor system and in other ballparks around the country, sure. But I think the insight here that Gomber can be providing to these young guys, while also, and I'm looking at the tea leaves here. He didn't say this specifically, but when you hear him talk like that, when you hear him talk about really understanding who he is and his role and how he wants to help the Rockies win, it doesn't sound like Gomber will be out of the question for moving out of the rotation to a middle relief bullpen position to add some veteran depth into the bullpen that the Rockies certainly have been looking for and talked about adding this offseason and even since the winter meetings, and being a resource for these guys of like, listen, these seasons are long. It's different every time you take them out at Coors. Here's what I do. Here's how I plan. Here's how I approach. That is going to give insight into these guys, especially because the rest of the pitching staff, right? They all can relate in the sense of, I think Herman, I don't know how much time Herman actually spent in the Rockies minor league system, because I believe he came over in a trade from Tampa Bay. I think that's what it was. I'm going to do a quick Google. Get to the Rockies. The Rays traded Marquez and Jake McGee to the Rockies for Corey Dickerson and Kevin Padlow. Okay, gotcha. That was back in 2016. So let's see if I can see how long he did spend. And anyway, that's not necessarily where I'm trying to be. My point is, everybody else in the Rockies rotation has experience going up and through the Rockies system, hearing about Coors Field, hearing about it, and this goes for the prospects too. I think Gomber does provide a really, really interesting, type of perspective here. A guy that's had to adjust, a guy that's had to make changes. Everyone's got to adjust all season, but Gomber certainly has had to completely reevaluate his pitching abilities. Not in the way of like, am I bad? It's just what's successful here. What is going to get me to my 6-7 innings that I want to get to and throw, and how can I help the team? So my point is, I think the Rockies do have a situation. It's going to take the experience of the Bud Blacks and the Austin Gombers to come together and form what is going to be best for this rotation at the end of spring. And Bud Black even talks about this in the interview that was posted on Rocky or MLB.com and shared and stuff. I mean, there are going to be tough conversations. There are going to be people that are disappointed. But this is where we have to, I mean, this is where we at least have to put our faith in the Rockies coaching staff and development staff, because this is the time where they have to thrive and succeed. This is the time where they are working with so many of their guys, have the opportunity to work with and set the stage for what the path looks like this year for some of these young guys to get their MLB debut, get consistent MLB playing time, XYZ. And so it'll be a little tough if the spring ends and it's just kind of business as usual. It's kind of just the usual folks on the roster. No real surprises. Because that means there wasn't much of a breakout from anybody during spring training. And we don't want to see that. I don't know. It's an interesting spot to be. It's still so early. We'll be seeing what happens when full squads actually show up next week and how that looks. But we got to take a quick break. And a listener crunched some numbers for us. And we're going to dive into those numbers here in just a moment. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes a wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. You can join in on everybody's favorite perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether you're snacking at your desk, on a road trip, or just need that quick protein boost, they are the perfect go-to snack for you. And if you love cracking open every shell, come on, who doesn't love the good satisfying feeling of getting in there and cracking open a delicious pistachio? Well, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com for more. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, check out our pal Sully over on the Locked On MLB podcast, breaking down all things in the world of Major League Baseball. And of course, we got you covered with Colorado sports here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs. And hey, if you haven't been seeing, our boy Anilo Piro is doing a lot of work. Postcasts for the Nuggets, postcasts for the Rockies this coming season, postcasts for the Broncos. Can't remember if he's doing, I don't know if he's doing Avs too, but that's a whole lot of stuff there that we're doing with these on that Locked On Denver Sports channel. You can check that out as well. Don't miss out on all the great coverage we have here in a very busy time for Colorado sports here as the Nuggets keep on rolling. Let's see what's going to go on with that. It's what a fascinating season for them too, right? I mean, I talk about being jealous. You know, it kind of relates here. I mean, it doesn't really relate. It doesn't relate at all. Okay. I got this comment here from Cassidy Dean, and longtime first listener, and did some number crunching for us here. And so let's read this and react to this. Hey, Paul, hope you're doing better than the moves the Rocks have made in the offseason, which aren't that great. I crunched some numbers from last season's historically bad start. Let's not forget the per-game trailing streak all the way to May. So I went over the strikeouts from the peak of the losing streak, 7 games in mid-April until the turnaround of the mid-May winning streak, also 7 games. The strikeouts per game while losing were 15, 10, 8, 12, 11, and 6. While the Ks during the winning streak were 9, 10, 7, 4, 6, 13, and 9. An average of 10.3 strikeouts while losing 7 in a row and averaging 8.3 while winning 7. It's not as much of a difference as you'd think with this team that strikes out a lot. I then went down a rabbit hole of the games where they had differences since the strikeouts weren't night and day different. Those other key differences amount to something you've been mentioning here and there during the offseason: consistency. Guys getting enough playing time to get comfortable, and then consistency follows. I guess it makes sense why anyone working our analytics department would have a hard time, if we had one. This team is constantly moving pieces around. To get better offensively, we have to give guys consistent plate appearances, no matter if it's a young guy or veteran. Nobody has a chance to get hot if we just shuffle everyone back and forth from Albuquerque who are not named Doyle, McMahon, or Tovar. I still love this team, got my tickets for the year, and all I want to see is the Coors Field advantage in full effect for our lineup. I want to be excited for some homers this season, and it might help to cope with all the other issues of the bullpen, front office, ownership, etc. Thanks for crunching those numbers. An important look there. I mean, even let's just react immediately there. Even when the Rockies were winning, averaging 8 strikeouts during a 7-game win streak, that's a problem. Averaging at least, that means, I bet if you looked throughout, the Rockies averaged 8 to 10 strikeouts a game. I don't have the actual numbers to back that up, but I'm just going off of our little sample there from Cassidy. And that's it right there. I mean, it doesn't matter about what we talk about, any of this type of stuff. Plain and simple, if the Rockies aren't a team that strikes out less this year, expect the same results. Plain and simple. If the Rockies average striking out 8 to 10 times a game again, put them in the 100 loss column. Hook, line, and sinker. And because you can sit there and point, well, no, they would have avoided it if the bullpen. You're not going to help out the bad bullpen days if you get up in the bottom of the ninth and you go down on 3 strikeouts. You're not going to be able to help the young starter back him up in the beginning of his career when you strike out 10 times while the guy gives you 5 quality innings that maybe the opponent score 3. You can't be putting yourself in situations that we've seen with the Rockies, especially last year when there were young guys giving opportunities, and the bullpen late in games where it's just like the offense and the bullpen and the pitching staff need to work together, need to be a cohesive unit. And that's far from what it was last year. Oh, we had a great start from the pitcher. We got 3 hits in the 7th inning. There goes the Rockies offense. They scored big. They got a 5 spot here in the first 5 innings, and it's blown in the 9th. The point is, it's going to take everything coming together, and it's going to take a drastic improvement in certain statistical areas for the Rockies to be on the right, to look like not only are they on the way to competition, but just on the right track. The big thing here that I take away from this is, it's just, I know that strikeouts are a problem, but it just highlights, even when the Rockies are winning, they're striking out. That just shows how many missed opportunities they can for winning big, winning big games, really putting the pressure on a team, putting games out of commission, let alone the fact that the strikeouts are a problem that plagues the lineup from 1 through 9. So as much as we're talking about with Bud Black and everybody, getting the young guys and the bullpens and the arms ready during this time in spring, that's what has to be being drilled through on the offensive side as well. The strikeouts are probably the biggest issue with the Rockies. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of line for saying that. Maybe I'm a little crazy. But if you're striking out at the rate that the Rockies did, league worst, one of, I know the most strikeouts, and the only ones that had more were the Mariners, and it was very close, especially when you started looking at strikeout rates and things like that. It ain't gonna get better unless you can really address and fix that part of it, because it's not that is man. I'm gonna just go off on a tangent there, but I want to revisit one more thing that Cassidy said. It is that consistency thing. we've talked about Chris Bryant in right field, right? How frustrating would it be for you as a ball player if you only got 5 at-bats in a week? You're on the Rockies, you made the major league roster, but you get 5 at-bats in a week. The next week you get 3, and then you're back down. So 2 weeks have passed in the season, and you have just basically trained, because you're doing your warm-ups, you're in the cage, you're doing all that stuff. But then to just sit on the bench and do nothing, it just can't happen. The Rockies have to go and say, we are starting you 3 days a week. We are starting you twice a week. You have to give these guys the ability to get into a groove, or else it's just, what are we going to really see? What are we really going to do? Brenton Doyle benefited from playing every day. Michael Toglia benefited from playing every day. Nolan Jones will benefit from playing every day. The right fielder will benefit from playing every day. By having half of the season taken up by potentially Chris Bryant, and I know it seems like it might not be every time they're out on the road and yada, 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 but it doesn't matter. Every opportunity you take away from a player, not only to just get on the field and get some at-bats, but to be able to get into a groove, you just muddy the water still. How are we going to feel? How are we supposed to feel about Hunter Goodman and Sean Bouchard and Jordan Beck and all these guys if they're not going to get consistent playing time? I can't judge a baseball player off of a week's worth of work. That's not how it works. I need to see 100+ at bats from these guys, and the Rockies have to commit to getting these guys their at bats, even if that means putting out lineups like we saw a little bit last year, where it was just like, these aren't the best lineups, but it's instead getting these guys into the game, getting them where they need to go, and at least giving them opportunity to show off what they can do. It has to be consistent for these guys. It would be so, I just don't know. I don't know that's how baseball works sometimes, but still, giving guys consistent playing time will be a big difference maker. All right, let's see. That's going to do it here for this segment. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to read some more YouTube comments and get excited for pitchers and catchers reporting coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Shout outs again to our pal Sully over at Locked On MLB. If you're looking for your second listen of the day, to wrap things up, let's do some YouTube comments here, but we're excited. Pitchers and catchers officially reporting here. All right, we answered that one, or we talked about that one yesterday there with Stewie. Let's see. Letha says they need to try something else because it clearly isn't working. So let these young dudes play and see what transpires. Yep, that's I think a lot of people are thinking that too. The Schwinnigan says this video partly kept me from jumping ship and completely ditching my fandom, at least for now. Reacted to from an episode from a little bit ago with talking about why you should root for the Rockies. Follows up with another comment that says, I would really like to see us get the worst record in franchise history in hopes that it puts more eyes on just how bad everything is and more pressure on the front office to move to the 21st century. It's an interesting one that you say that, right? Because we technically just had the 2 worst seasons in franchise history. Obviously, I know when I was reading that and reacting to that, how much that was. But it is kind of impressive, though, that we've experienced that. There has been pressure, and they haven't moved on from anybody other than a couple of coaches. They haven't made any big sweeping changes that other teams might make. But it's interesting to see what might happen if it's 3 in a row. Unacceptable. I mean, it's already teetering on that, but you can't have you can't deal with that anymore. Plain and simple. And then finally, this is Rockies Rule, and they say, I'm excited for the Rockies to see how Doyle and Tovar do. Also hope to see Jordan Beck get some more ABs, and hopefully we can see a 70-win season. I feel like they have lots of potential with who they got. Just got to tap into it. Yep, that's what this time is, right? That's what spring is. That's what we have to have the expectation for the Rockies coaching staff right now is You got to get them to tap into where they need to be. You got to get them ready to go. We've talked a little bit. Well, we haven't fully dove into the schedule yet, like going by like the full month, but we have highlighted how quickly things can turn at the beginning of the season, how tough the schedule will be right away for the Colorado Rockies. This is the time to tap in and get these guys ready to go. You don't have time to waste if you want to be a team that is competitive out there. But again, I don't know if that's necessarily the focus this season for the Colorado Rockies. We shall see. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Make sure to find us there and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy, Sully. And folks, remember, you can get more Colorado sports action with Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.